Hello, everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Cantina Club podcast. This is the first meeting of the Cantina Club fan club that was established all the way back in 1978. This is going to be our May 2018 meeting, first one in a while. So sit back, enjoy, and band, take it away.
We all know around here, the solo always does shots first. Singing yup no, yup yup. You're singing yup no, cha yup no, no. At the Cantina Club.
On today's episode of the Cantina Club, we're going to be debating the ranking of all 9 existing main Star Wars movies, not including the Ewok television shows or the Christmas special, but all 9 of the main films. We're going to try to come up with the official Cantina Club ranking of these movies.
So
that's going to be our main topic. Yes, you should just read yours then. That's Corellian. I'm Greedo. Gundark's over there. Gundark, call this meeting to order, please.
I'm Gundark, official secretary, and this meeting is hereby called to order. First meeting of May 2018.
All right, so who gets to go first? And we're going to do this in, I'm assuming, reverse order from 9 through 1?
Yeah.
We're going to go worst to first, yeah.
Okay, worst to first. All right.
Get some of the controversy out of the way. I have a feeling it's going to be controversy at the bottom and the top.
At the top as well, yeah. I think I've
the middle,
pretty much figured out what both of your favorites are. So,
yeah, it will also be. I think it's fun to guess what each of us are going to say in each position. So, okay, well, let's just start with the worst. That would be, we got 9 films, right?
Yep.
3 prequels, 3 original trilogy, 2 sequel trilogy. And so how many is that?
It's 9.
And then we got 1 standalone. What are they? Star Wars story.
Yep.
And we got Solo coming up. We have know nothing about Solo. We're all spoiler free. So
exactly. So
okay. So number 9. Let's just start with Gundark.
Okay.
Yep. What's your worst?
This is easy for me. Number 9 is Attack of the Clones.
You don't like Attack of the Clones?
No.
What's wrong with you?
It does.
And you're the secretary? No, go ahead.
It's the least memorable of all the Star Wars movies for me. It doesn't hold up to repeat viewing well, except, unfortunately, I remember the stomach-turning love story far too well. The psychopathic ravings of Anakin Skystalker against Padme is horrible, but worse, I think, for me, is objectifying Padme by putting her in that black leather bustier and the white midriff that just conveniently rips.
That was the best part.
The middle of a battle, it just fashionably rips, perfectly to show her belly, but
Sure.
She kind of tops off her humiliation by responding to her boyfriend admitting that he mass murdered women and children by agreeing to marry him. Okay, and that's it for me. I mean, nothing can save it.
Children.
Nothing can
Didn't you listen to him? They were animals.
well, you think about
he slaughtered them like animals.
Right.
We hated the Twilight movies, and I mean, George Lucas had already been there and done that with Attack of the Clones, so.
Wow, harsh. That's a smack down.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, especially on the dialogue. It's so cringeworthy, the dialogue between the two of them at the villa, that I can barely make it through. It's literally like I just want to pull a pillow up and just hide behind it while that scene is going on.
Yeah, it's supposed to be epic romance, but it's like...
Yeah.
Ironically, that's one of the few times they use an actual location on the whole film, and it was for some of the most abominable scenes that you can't watch.
Oh, so awful.
So are you done? Is that your statement?
Yes, that's my
for
statement.
number 9. Okay, so we have a vote for Attack of the Clones as the worst Star Wars movie of all time, all 40 years. And Corellian, sorry, edit that out. Corellian, What do the
No
people
aliases
What do
here.
the people of Kessel think? As an official representative of Kessel
Official
and the
representative.
Corellian shipyards.
Okay, the worst Star Wars film, and let me just preface it by saying, to say that any Star Wars film is a worst film is difficult because I love them all in certain ways, but this one I love less than the rest, and that is Episode
Wait.
One,
Let me
The
guess.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
guess that
sorry,
was it.
but yeah, to me, there's so many things I do like about it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I hate this film. It's just I like the other ones better.
Right.
There's just things about it, with all due respect to Jake Lloyd, I just find it annoying. Obviously, we don't need to go into Jar Jar. We all know how we feel about that. That just every time I watch it, it feels like it's just I don't know. I can't
How
get
much?
past it.
How much respect is due Jake Lloyd exactly?
He was a young kid and he was doing whatever George Lucas told him.
Yeah.
So it's not like he single-handedly came in and said, "Hey, yeah, this is how I'm going to play the role."
No. Yeah.
And the fact that it was written in such a way that because everybody loves the denouement of the film to be figured out by through slapstick comedy,
Right.
in an absolute
Which-
accident. Oops.
Yeah. We'll revisit that later in the list. I have a feeling.
I think we probably are. Okay, well,
You
there's
mean like
my
the
statement.
the final battle is just decided by accident, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a good plot device to fall back on
Oh,
again. The Force, the will of the Force. Phantom Menace, huh? So we got Corellian with Phantom Menace. Where prequels are dwelling at the bottom so far. Gundark, Attack of the Clones. This is one of my most difficult to choose spots because of recent developments in the Star Wars universe. But what sticks with me is when we did we'll probably do an episode about this, but we did something we called the Star Wars Death Pact back in 1999, before the Phantom Menace came out, when we thought that sitting through 3 Star Wars movies and then a 4th one was a long haul. And that was the original trilogy. They were all great. And then we saw the Phantom Menace directly, and we thought that was going to kill somebody. So we made T-shirts. We did the whole thing. Big group of us. Little did we know, 2015, we would sit through all 6 Star Wars movies for an entire night, and people that left lost their seats. It was just a whole bunch of drama. And so what was it like? 11 in the afternoon, Attack of the Clones came on. I don't know, it was sometime around then, and we were building up to The Force Awakens, and I can never shake the memory of just how freaking bad that movie is, especially with an audience. If you watch that with an audience and you share the suffering, which we did, it's like it's just a parody. I mean, because everybody's making fun of everything that happens on the screen. It's a terrible movie. It doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or not. There's no way. It's got to be number 9, Attack of the Clones. The good moments in there, there's a couple, maybe a few. Obi-Wan playing detective is sort of interesting, and the clone thing is sort of interesting.
I don't even really remember any of that.
Yeah, the battle in the rain between Jango and Obi-Wan is like the high point maybe of the whole movie, but
I agree. I
it
think
still is kind of flat, but at least give him credit for doing it. And ever since I was a kid, I saw Boba Fett. I had a poster of Boba Fett when we met him at the department store.
Yeah.
and the poster had him firing the flames out of his wrists, thing. And so I was always waiting all that time to see Boba Fett do something cool like that. And so Jango Fett kind of did that in that fight, but it still was flat. It just didn't really work. And of course, you've covered the horrible, unpardonable sins, and everyone hates sand, and Anakin really hates sand, and the reaction in the theater to that.
The wooden marionettes. I mean, how did the young lovers? How did someone like Natalie Portman end up so wooden in that film? It's got to be George Lucas's fault.
Nobody knows. Yeah, nobody knows. I still think she was CGI, like Jar Jar. It was all an experiment.
One can only hope.
The good thing I'll say about Attack of the Clones, like a lot of Lucasfilm and ILM stuff over the years, is that they threw everything at the wall on it. It seems like, and it was more of a technical exercise to prepare for future projects and to get all that CGI, see what they could and couldn't do. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff they couldn't do ended up on the screen, it seemed like, and they tried to have adventure and all that, and tip of the hat to Harryhausen, and it just didn't work out. It's just bad. It's an abomination. It's horrible. And if I never have to do it again, that's fine. Sorry to everyone who loves it. No, we got 2 votes for Attack of the Clones, 1 for Phantom Menace. The prequels are getting hit hard right now. So let's move on and let's go to number 8, and we'll start with Corellian this time.
All right. So, speaking of recent developments, coming in at number 8, and I so wish I could put this higher. I really do wish I could put this higher, but
are you going to break
Last Jedi?
Gundark's heart?
The Last Jedi
Oh.
comes in at number 8. I want to like this movie so much more than I do, but I just don't. I've watched it, I don't know how many times now, but I saw it 5 times in the theater. I've seen it at least 2 or 3 more times since the Blu-ray came out a couple of weeks ago, and I watch it and I'm just like, it has a couple of moments here and there, but overall, I'm just like, it just really doesn't go anywhere for me. It doesn't do much. I don't really know much else. I mean, it's all fresh in our minds because it's the latest Star Wars film, so there's no reason to really rake it over the coals too much, I guess. But it, for me, again, I don't think it's, as you called, Attack of the Clones an abomination. I wouldn't say it's an abomination, but it's not great. So that's my number 8.
What's the feature that you disliked about it the most?
The oldest controversy about it, the treatment of Luke Skywalker, I don't agree with that at all. I don't like, and it's not just that I just don't like seeing my character, turned into a grumpy old man. I just feel like there was so much potential there that could have been used, and that wasn't. And I just felt it's a waste to throw that character away like that.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things, and just the outright. To me, the comedy for the sake of comedy, I get it. Star Wars has always had a certain level of humor in it, but it's always been played a certain way. It's always been used as a way to break tension. When things get a little bit too tense, not just for, hey, this is a great place for a joke, and here's a great place for a joke, and here's a great place for a joke. To me, it follows far too much the whole Guardians of the Galaxy blueprint. Of like those jokes would have been hilarious in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I think, but not so much in a Star Wars film. So that's kind of my take on that. Just to start, basically the crux of the first scene of the film that you've waited 2 years to see is a humor bit, with the okay, I'll hold for Hux, it's like, really, come on, I don't know, that maybe that's just me splitting hairs, but that's how I feel on that one.
The humor also felt like everybody had the same sense of humor through the whole script. Right. Like every character could have cracked the same jokes that everybody else cracked, except for maybe Hux because he was played as just super dense. But
right.
So that made you think that the galaxy has come over to just one form of humor. Kind of like watching a Will Ferrell movie or something 10 years ago, and everybody has all the comedies coming out had the same tone, the same style. I just don't. In Star Wars originally, humorous characters had their own sense of humor. It was Americana. It was a familiar sense of humor, but you never got the feeling that everybody was just cracking jokes from the same book.
Exactly.
There's really no individual tone there to me. It's all situational gags and stuff. Anyway, I'll stop.
It was sitcom Star Wars.
Right.
So I think if we're going in order, and if you're finished, that means I'm next, and then Gundark will be next. So we're just on number 8, right?
Number 8. Yep.
This is where I had trouble. What I talked about, Attack of the Clones, had trouble putting it in the last spot because I really, really, really wanted to put The Last Jedi in the last spot. Like, you have no idea how badly I wanted to put it in there.
I know you did.
But because I have similar audience experiences, to me, there was just a lot of shock in at least a couple of those viewings I saw. There was people who got it and laughed. A lot of the laughter was uncomfortable, but there was also a lot of silence and a lot of dropped gags and a lot of you could just feel the air go out of the room in a lot of points. And I'm sure, and from looking on the internet and everything, there's tons of people who love the movie.
Yeah.
I do get the impression a lot of times they're trying to convince me and themselves that they love it more than they actually do.
Yep.
I don't know why, but echoing what you said, the Star Wars is the Skywalker saga, and what they did to Luke in the movie is just. I get it that people say, get over it, your expectations. I didn't have any fan theories. I didn't buy into any of that stuff. I went in with no spoilers. And they tell you, everybody tells you, go on without spoilers. Well, I'm not doing that in the future because I want to know if they're going to pull the kind of stunts they did in that movie kind of beforehand. Because I wanted to have the choice not to throw my money into the big pile of cash they took that weekend. I mean, we bought tickets to 2 showings before we ever saw it.
Yeah,
an IMAX and a preview showing, and I did not want to go to the IMAX showing. I'm glad I did. It settled me down a bit, and the IMAX was cool. But if I'd had my way, I felt so betrayed after the first showing that I would have pulled my money out. I would have not contributed any more to that at all. And it's not bitterness. I'm not angry at Lucasfilm or anything. It's just that. We've always supported Star Wars movies and Lucasfilm projects and everything, all that stuff. And you can't just be a sheep and continually, not these days, and continually just endorse and show up for these people. We went to Celebration. It was a huge deal. They showed the preview trailer where everybody's trying to believe and all be enraptured by it, even though, I had severe misgivings. But you're there with those thousands of people and all in this same kind of fervor, and then you see the movie and you just feel dumb. It's like that movie reached back in time, slapped some sense into me months before at Celebration. Myself there, I felt stupid for that guy. It reached back in time to The Force Awakens and slapped that guy who saw that movie and made me feel stupid for liking that movie. I went to see that movie a bunch of times, and I reserved my rating on that film to what the sequel would do. Because Luke Skywalker is such an important character. Han Solo is such an important character. How are they going to follow up on this stuff? They left nowhere to go. And Last Jedi, to me, didn't deliver. I don't know what happened. I don't know why so much power to just write every detail of the script was given to one guy. But I felt like there had to be people who looked at that, who felt like I did, who didn't step up and do anything to kind of alter the course of that. So I don't know what's going on over there, but my reaction to it, the movie looks beautiful. The movie has some awesome moments. The reason I didn't put it at number 9 is because of Luke's death scene is so well done. And because the reunion of Luke and Leia, even though I think it is not ultimately really satisfying, it's all they left us with. And it's all fate left us with.
It's the only reunion we'll get from the 3.
It's the only reunion we'll get. They screwed up going all the way back to 2015 when they didn't give us what we came to see in the first place.
There's the 3 of them on the screen again.
They played Russian roulette and they lost.
Yep.
So anyway, that's the reason it's not at number 9. I loathe it, so it should be number 9. But it has memorable scenes that I think I'll be able to watch individually and enjoy. As time goes on and I feel less, angst about it or whatever. But overall, boy, I tried watching it for a third time at home, and I just felt a void. Like, I didn't even feel annoyed at the humor. I didn't laugh at the humor.
Just felt nothing.
It was boring. Yeah, it was just a really boring movie with a long middle act that went nowhere. Nothing happens in it except they just get rid of more characters. And anyway, we're going to do segments on these individual movies when we get to it. So I'll stop because I can go on and on and on and on. But it's at number 8 and it's teetering. Future developments could shove it down to number 9. I don't think anything will ever bring it up from there for me, from number 8. It could drop because,
it has the potential to go down, but not to come up.
It is never coming up. Never. And I've tried. And I'm letting go of some of the bitterness and anger and stuff, but them to have that cast, for them to, and I love the new characters, so don't bash me for hating the new characters or anything. We'll get into all that again, but I felt that hand of the political agenda sneaking in there, and a lot of things that really bothered me. I thought every single character in that movie suffered. Nobody came out ahead except maybe Kylo Ren. and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to justify what they did. Okay, so anyway, I apologize for taking too long. Who's next?
I'm
Gundark is
next.
next with number 8.
I'm next with
What you
number
got?
8. My number 8 is Phantom Menace. So
Okay.
Attack of the Clones is the worst.
Good
Phantom
call.
Menace is one step up.
And once again, the prequels take a shot.
Yeah, George Lucas handiwork.
but I have to put it within the context first of seeing it in the 1990s when it originally came out as the first Star Wars movie in what, a decade after we had thought there would be no more Star Wars, and George Lucas said that he wasn't going to be making any more Star Wars, and then
How do you get a decade?
so wasn't it almost a decade?
Were you Phantom
Oh,
Menace?
wasn't
It would have been like 17 years, wouldn't it? Or
Oh,
16
even
years.
more than that.
that?
Okay,
16
well,
years, yeah.
Okay.
Because 83
Well,
was Return of the
16
Jedi.
years in. Yeah, first Star Wars movie coming along. And the opening scene, I remember sitting in the theater with Brian, and we were sitting through the opening scene with the Jedi attacking, and we turned to each other and said, "This is awesome." After
Yeah,
3 movies,
I remember that.
yeah, of hearing characters blah blah blahing about how badass the Jedi were when they were the guardians of peace and justice, to
Mhm.
actually see them do their
Blah, blah.
to actually see them doing their stuff when they were at the height of their powers.
Blah, blah, blah.
And yeah, all of that from Obi-Wan. You actually get to see young Obi-Wan in action,
Yep.
and see bad guys crapping their pants in fear at the power of the Jedi. That opening stuff was great. The lightsaber duel at the end is just spectacular. Ray Parks' Darth Maul was a wonderful
Oh,
villain. It was just too
fantastic.
underused. But then you have Jar Jar come along, and then you've got the snore fest on Tatooine, and in the Galactic Senate, and Mannequin Skywalker, and so the whole middle part of the film. I remember one of our friends went with us and fell asleep during the middle part. My friend is sitting next to me snoring.
Probably the
and you
pod
jump-
race.
Yeah, is the snoring at Star Wars? There's something wrong.
Yeah.
So the middle part did not work at all. I think if the film had had more Jedi fighting and less Jar Jar, it might could have been bumped up on the list a little bit for me. But because of it dragging so much when it should have been really exciting, especially the anticipation for it as the first Star Wars film in so long, really puts it down towards the bottom of the list. But nothing though will eclipse Attack of the Clones for the bottom ranking for me.
Okay.
To be fair, I think now I could fall asleep during a Star Wars movie in the theater. It has to do with age, perhaps. Now that I've gotten to the point where it's like, do I want to see this middle bit with the pod race, or do I want to catch a nap? Yeah. So, okay, so we've got. I need to be writing this stuff down. We've got two votes for Attack of the Clones at number 9. Let's see, 9, and then we have, what was your number 9, Alan? Phantom Menace.
Yep.
I mean Corellian.
He refuses to use my full name. Corellian traitor.
Corellian traitor. He has very distinct imperial leanings, so but we won't go into that. Okay, so
You may learn about that later as we go.
I believe that was Gundark went first on number 8, right?
Yeah.
So Corellian, you go first on number 7. What you got?
No,
And
I went first
let
on
me.
number 7 or on number 8.
Oh, you went first on number 8.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's actually
so
your turn to go first.
is it my turn?
Yeah.
You guys have any idea what I'm going to put at number 7?
At number 7,
Yeah.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
You're correct. Phantom Menace. This is sort of process of elimination, and it's
Yeah.
just easy at this point in the middle of the pack. I wrote a review that we have since lost of the Phantom Menace that was like 6 pages long.
Oh,
That just completely shredded it, and I did not talk about any of my childhood being ruined or anything like that. I just compared it to the original movies, and just how the tone was so stale, and the mysticism was destroyed.
Midichlorians.
Yeah, I still remember the feeling. There's a few movies, Star Wars movies, where I remember the feeling when something happened. A New Hope, which it wasn't A New Hope then, when I saw the Death Star blow up the first time. Phantom Menace when they said midichlorians, and he said, "Please, sir, what are midichlorians?" And it goes into the explanation. It's like, oh no, and there was no father. When the mother says, "Oh, there was no father," I can't explain it. I was like, oh no, really? Yeah, I remember hearing the audible groan from people, and just like that sound of like, huh? What? It was a WTF sound that everybody made without saying it. Nobody was on board for that, but I do believe that's Lucas going back to more of his Dune roots, and unfortunately it had echoes of like Scientology or something to me. I'm not saying he's into any of that or anything, but when you can take a device and test someone and say you're going to be the greatest Jedi ever because of a blood test, right. That's not what I was imagining the Clone Wars would be like for all those years and everything. I do have a fond spot for Phantom Menace. It's small. The bottom of my left foot or something, but if it's on, I will watch it. It has not aged well effects wise, so it's a little distracting. Even the duel at the end, you can see the blending. They need to, maybe Disney, will go back and polish that at some point. I doubt it, but it'd be cool if they did something like that. And it's a movie that could really use a special edition. Where they cut out the Captain Obvious, the it's one big city, the planet. That guy just announced everything that happened.
Oh, that was so bad.
That little droid did it. Yeah, we all know the little droid did it. Okay, he's R2-D2. He's a lot more famous than you'll ever be. Stop getting in his way. But yeah. So I enjoy watching it because Phantom Menace had Palpatine in it, who this is the beginning of not Anakin's journey for me, but Palpatine's journey. To me, he is the main character in the prequels. Just my personal thing. I liked seeing him where he came from. I liked all the foreshadowing they did, and they didn't just hammer you over the head with it. Ian McDiarmid aged into the role like he was supposed to be that age in Jedi.
Perfect. Yeah.
And he brought. He didn't have any directions. He said Lucas told him nothing. So he did everything. Kind of like I compare it to Alec Guinness a little bit in A New Hope, where he had to tell, "How did my father die?" And he takes that breath, and that breath that he takes kind of sustains the whole saga for years and years. You see so much in that one moment that wasn't even there. It wasn't in the script. Nope. I doubt anybody told him to do it. He just did it naturally as a gifted actor. Ian McDiarmid isn't on that level necessarily, but I really enjoy watching him and seeing his origins. Great, so that's why I have a fond spot for Phantom Menace. It's not like I'm just gonna hate it like I did when it first came out. I've grown to just accept it, and like all the other prequel movies, it makes for great YouTube poop, which is the people that take all the different scenes and edit them. Glad it exists. But it could use a special edition. But
let me
again,
ask you this:
those are all George's ideas, so I don't know how much you can change them.
Well, let me ask you this:
and just the rest of Lucas not directing a movie in however long.
Exactly.
And he's not an actor's director from everything we've seen.
Oh no.
If you watch the behind the scenes stuff on a lot of the prequels, I think some people think it sheds a really poor light on it. I think it sheds a better light on it, and you can see that he's actually trying, and that, but I think he's more into the technical side of it, and the storytelling just wasn't as important.
Yeah, he's absolutely. I mean, I remember seeing the behind the scenes stuff on Phantom Menace, and he was practically, salivating at, the new technology that he could utilize to manipulate, where actors were in a scene. It was like, wait a minute, what? It's like, so instead of reshooting it, you just said, no, I'm just gonna digitally cut him out here and put him over here on this side of the frame. Like, really?
It's like those.
Okay.
It's like those old. It's like those old sticky magnetic boards that we used to get, where you'd have all the characters with little magnets, and you could move them all over the set wherever you want.
And that's kind of the way he was looking at it, like a kid in a candy store. Know.
Phantom Menace just didn't leave enough to your imagination, I don't think, and. Star Wars always you always got the feeling you were seeing the tip of the iceberg, and people are living in this galaxy, and there's stuff going on all behind the scenes, and everything was just explained. It was done for kids, and I get it, but it really wasn't an entertaining kids film, in my opinion. But anyway, so we've we've got that now at my vote for that at number 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at here? So I don't get
Gundark,
lost.
Gundark should go next.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 7, Revenge of the Sith. And I think this one because
I'm looking over at Corellian,
I
biting
placed
his tongue.
I placed this highest on
Traitor!
the prequels list because unlike Attack of the Clones, it actually improves on repeat viewing for me. And I think again that's largely because of Palpatine. Palpatine comes into his own finally. It's really cool to see him totally enjoying his evil and letting loose with the dark side, especially after 2 prequel movies that were so boring and dour. To see somebody actually having fun in a Star Wars movie again was awesome. And the smackdown between him and Yoda at the end was so much fun to watch. Anytime that's rerunning on TV, I try to catch that part of it again at the end. But it kind of proves, like what Greedo was saying, that the prequel movies are Palpatine's trilogy. They're really because he kind of takes control of everything, and he's the film is most entertaining when he's on screen.
Yeah, I agree.
I think at the end, and then also a highlight of that film for me, watching it when it was first released, was getting to see the infamous lava planet that George Lucas had threatened us with for several years throughout Star Wars lore.
Right.
I guess going back to A New Hope with the talk about how did Darth Vader get put in the breath mask and how did he become a cyborg, and the interview after interview for decades, George Lucas had talked about a volcano-side duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, so it was cool to finally see that make it into film.
Absolutely.
So that one was definitely the best of the prequel movies for me.
But still not enough to save it from you putting it down at number 7. So you have a solid just prequel sweep for 9, 8, and 7. Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of splitting it up a little bit. So Corellian, are you done, Gundark? Is that all you wanted to say? Okay, because we might have some opposing viewpoints on that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the trailers.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right.
What's your number 7?
Well, before I go to number 7, can I just say how much I enjoyed? I think we've got our initial great quote of the show. It was great to see someone enjoying their evil.
That's always good. Yeah.
It's always good to see someone enjoying their evil.
It's gonna be evil. You gotta enjoy it.
You gotta have fun with it.
Celebrate the evil.
Yeah, definitely did that.
So
It was just an evil party.
Exactly. All right, my number 7 is Attack of the Clones. So it's a little higher than both of you, but not much.
Holy cow.
And we've kind of already talked it to death. So there's really not a lot else needs to be said.
Holy crap!
What's that?
How did Attack of the
I was just
Clones
quoting
make
her.
it up to number 7? I'm just
You actually got her to say "Holy crap!"
Brilliant, you
Yeah.
are
What an
right.
accomplishment.
It got to number 7 because it's not The Last Jedi.
Ooh,
So,
ouch.
so anyway, just saying that.
So you'll go with 3PO saying "What a drag" over
Yes, I will.
over any of the humor in the Last Jedi is what you're saying.
As bad as that was, it was still funnier. Yes.
There's nothing worse than that. But okay.
Yeah, no, it's bad. You're right. But yeah. So anyway, so at number 7, I've got Attack of the Clones, and to me, there are a few moments there. Like just like I said at the beginning, I don't hate any Star Wars film. I really don't. And it's just that. There are some good moments, like you mentioned. The stuff on Camino, with Boba Fett or Jango Fett, excuse me, and Obi-Wan, and then we get to Geonosis. I actually like some of the stuff on Geonosis, not necessarily the bugs, but I do like the fight at the end and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. So there are some things that are good about it, but we've already talked about the bad.
It suffered from just clownish villains, really. Besides Sidious, who was barely in it.
Yeah.
There was no villain to speak of except Count Dooku, and Christopher Lee's great, but they gave him nothing. He had
Yeah,
like
they didn't give him anything.
one or two scenes. We couldn't even figure out what he was trying to do in that movie.
How
I'm
do you
still not
waste
clear on
it?
what the bad guys were trying to do in the
Yeah.
whole prequel trilogy, except for Sidious. He's obvious, but I still don't know how he manipulated the others so thoroughly and what they were. You watch the Clone Wars cartoons, I guess, and it becomes clearer and a lot better. But okay, so we've got at number 7, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, and Attack of the Clones. It's a clean prequel sweep for number 7. So we're on to number 6, and I think now it's Gundark's turn.
Oh, okay. Okay, number 6, for me, this is probably where we're gonna butt heads, I guess, with both Corellian and Greedo. It's The Last Jedi. And I really struggle where to
Wow.
put. Yeah,
I'm amazed you put it that low.
I am too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed
I
that.
thought you'd have it higher.
Frankly, it would originally have been higher, but the aftertaste has gotten worse and worse.
So you're the reverse of a lot of people who liked it better upon reflecting on it.
Yeah, I've it's lost some of its glow for me. But still, I really struggle where to put it in my list. And I think really the only reason I rank it above the prequels is because of the presence of the original cast of Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. And I have to give Rian Johnson credit for getting beautiful performances out of Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. Those two gorgeous performances in that film, and how much the camera loves photographing them. I was impressed by their willingness to use all those luminous, lingering close-ups of their faces at the really deep emotional moments, and I thought that gave real emotional gravitas to the film. And
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked. Now I know that Greedo didn't like Rey's story arc in this film. I actually, upon thinking about it more and more, I liked Rey's story arc. I liked the fact that she didn't have the big heritage of parentage that the first movie, that Force Awakens, led us to expect. Because I kind of like seeing her come into her own heroic autonomy. I like that scene in the cave where she sees infinite reflections of herself instead of finding her parents. So kind of the reverse of what happened with, I could see you guys going to Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, it's
really
going
in
to get
space.
worse. Okay, it's going to get worse. And I initially hated the...
She just keeps going. No, go ahead.
I initially hated the force Skyping, the force texting between
Sure,
Rey
who wouldn't?
and Kylo Ren.
Sensible reaction.
But I grew to like it because the performances by the two actors in those scenes are so riveting. And then I liked too the kind of reverse Attack of the Clones, reverse Twilight effect, where she's like turning down the seduction of the bad boyfriend, so it's kind of
you're saying when Kylo lost his shirt, you became a little more riveted because you said it was going along. Became riveted. Was it before or after the Sith shirtless scene that you became riveted?
That's a good point. And I complained in Attack of the Clones about Padme getting a midriff belly rip, and Kylo appears oiled up and shirtless, and I have no qualms about that.
Right.
No, well, yeah, I do have qualms, but
I did like that they kept his scars pretty accurate. Like he even had the blaster bolt, like where Finn stuck him in the shoulder. There was a scar. There was a scar down on his side where he got shot by Chewie. I mean, you could see the part of it coming up, and that slash she gave him in Force Awakens looked wicked. I mean, it went all the way down this. I mean, I liked all that stuff, but
and he
didn't have to get
wonderful. His performance
He's fantastic.
His performance is what makes that character compelling. And then I also loved seeing Yoda again. I know that you may have had mixed feelings about the scene with Yoda, but I loved seeing him interact with Luke again, and seeing that brief little scene from the director in the Jedi documentary where Mark Hamill goes on the set to work with Frank Oz and Yoda again, made that scene resonate even more.
That was really neat.
Yeah. And then I loved seeing Luke channel the trickster Yoda in the only Jedi training scene really that we get in that movie. It needed more Jedi training between Luke and Rey, and the scene where
Yeah.
he tickles her with the reed.
Dude, any
I liked that. Um, but I don't know. There were, and I agree with Greedo that Luke's death was beautifully portrayed. Also, the showdown between Luke and Kylo Ren at the end of the movie was beautifully photographed. There were several times where I felt kind of like I was looking at a Kurosawa movie.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when that was shot. But the flaws are just so outstanding, and
yeah,
the plot problem with the Resistance fleeing the First Order and losing fuel while they're sending off people on these random missions in the vague hope of getting help while wasting more fuel to send them off on these missions, and then going to a casino. Okay, a casino in a Star Wars film, appearing in a Star Wars film that features original characters without Lando Calrissian sitting at those tables is a disgrace. Okay, Star
yes,
Wars, don't ever do that
yes,
again. Don't ever do that again. Hopefully, the Han Solo film
yes.
will make up for that because I had such
Release your
anticipation
anger.
for Lando to be there and to be disappointed in that. No, but I think I agree with you guys. Maybe the most egregious flaw for me was the treatment of Luke's character. And it wasn't just like Corellian said, it wasn't because he's a grumpy old man or whatever. It wasn't because he was depicted as having failed at something. Um, Luke failed over and over again throughout the original trilogy, and he was always hot-headed and reckless. But it was the type of failure attributed to him that was offensive to me because it was a violation of his character. It was just so out of character that he would refuse to go help his friends. Because in the original trilogy, his MO was always, they're my friends, I've got to help them. So,
Loyalty
yeah,
and
so no matter
dedication.
what
Yep.
crap the Jedi Masters fed him, he was always up for helping his friends. And so
Yep.
I can't imagine that anybody would show up on his doorstep and say, I'm sent by your sister Leia, she needs help, and him not go immediately. He would drop everything and rush to help, even if he felt that he did not want to restart the Jedi Order. He would find some way to help. So his refusal to help his friends in that was so out of character. It was a violation of his character story arc, I think, through the entire mythology that you just can't get over.
Yeah,
And that's the most fatal flaw for me. The only reason I don't rank it lower than I do is because Mark Hamill's performance is just outstanding. I mean, he did the best he
just
could.
imagine if you had something to really work with.
Yes, he
I
That's
did
mean,
the thing.
really,
Yeah.
really,
best he could with
really sterling. That wasn't written in a week.
and
You
that
know,
that's the to me that's the best performance of his career. It's the best thing I've ever seen him do, and it's just such a shame that it was all structured around a misreading of the character, which he
Yeah.
felt, and wished that he could do something about. But he did the best with what he had, and the death of Luke was beautiful. I think it was a beautiful ending of his story arc. But the if you're going to use a movie to convey the message of facing up to your failures, which is a noble message to convey, which has been at the heart of many Star Wars films, and you're going to use Luke Skywalker to convey that message, then the failure has to be consistent with his character. And it just was such a violation of who he was that it was like watching
it has
a
to be
different person.
believable, just like anything else. If we don't buy it, it's over. The
Yeah.
premise sinks, and I didn't buy it, not for a second.
Yeah.
And when you think back to Return of the Jedi, it was his sister that set him off when his father threatened his sister. That's what.
Yeah.
That's always been his.
His weak spot.
Yeah, and so they tell him they're fleeing for their lives at this very moment.
Yeah.
And
he does not.
he goes
does
fishing and milking the
Yeah,
alien
he
and
goes
stuff.
fishing
And
and
he's
milking.
more worried about the
Yeah.
big picture, what it will do to the galaxy if he brings back the Jedi at that moment rather
Right.
than his friends. That was never Luke. He was always about his friends rather than the big picture. And he left the big
Yeah.
picture to the other Jedi Masters. And that was what made him morally superior to the other Jedi Masters, I thought, in the original films. So it's just
Yeah,
a shame.
the bits where they accuse the Jedi and kind of that stuff it is actually a good idea and could be addressed and everything. It just didn't. I don't feel like it worked out in that movie as the major theme. It also felt like a betrayal of Luke because he specifically threw Obi-Wan under the bus. He mentioned Obi-Wan without saying his name, but no way, And anyway, so we've got that at your number 6. Do you have anything else you want to add to that? Because we obviously need to do a meeting about that movie at some point.
I loved Carrie Fisher in it. To me, it
Me
was
too.
a wonderful final tribute for her. All of her scenes, her performance was just beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's good points to that movie. I won't say it's just absolute trash or get so emotional that I will degrade. The practical effects in it are amazing. The special effects overall, there's some dicey moments, but overall, and Crate is one of my favorite Star Wars planets. I'll give it that. Crate, whoever designed Crate, ace job. It's fantastic. I love Crate, but even though I'm the saltiest of the bunch about the movie, I think I still like the Salt Planet.
Yeah, I'm literally just kind of not talking about it because I know we're just going to end up doing an episode just talking about Last Jedi. Because I could literally, like you guys both.
We could do an episode on each character in that movie and where they went wrong and where the few parts where they went right.
Where they got it right, because they did get some things right. Yeah.
I think it's a great cast. I think the sequel trilogy has a great cast. They're it's just a shame somebody didn't stand up for Star Wars more than what was done. Okay, so Corellian, what's your number 6? We got The Last Jedi with 1 vote.
Okay, Last Jedi has 1 vote. My number 6 is. Hold on, get my list.
I think Last Jedi is trending downward because we both put it lower, and you didn't save it by putting it higher to average it out. Because I think it's trending pretty far down the bottom of our official list by the time this is over.
So my number 6 is Episode 7, Force Awakens.
All right.
Again, there's probably more I like about the film than I dislike, but it's just it didn't make the top half of the list because there's just so many other films that are better. Right. I don't necessarily buy into the whole it's a rehash of A New Hope. I think it's more of a rehash of the entire first trilogy, the original trilogy, in a lot of ways. But that being said, I loved, obviously, that's our first time to see Leia and Han, and obviously for this much Luke at the very end. But we've got the huge problems with it. The fact that we didn't get an on-screen reunion of the 3, which is one of the biggest payoffs that all Star Wars fans were waiting for. And that's gone for. That was a huge problem for me. And that's one of the main things that prevents it from being any higher on the list. Other than that, I always want there to be more R2, so I can't. R2 is clearly easily probably in my top 3 or 4 favorite Star Wars characters of all time.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. I mean,
I learned something new after 40 freaking years. I would have never guessed that. No,
you didn't know my affinity for R2, did you?
No.
Yeah, he is. I love that little guy. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we could have done with more R2. We could have done with a little bit more of the group getting together and actually kind of, to me, that would have been what brought the whole trilogy into being for me, to where it really meant something again, is when they were all together, and then we didn't get that. But I loved the introduction of the new characters. I think Finn and Rey were great additions to the Star Wars universe. Poe as well. And I love how it was shot. I love, kind of like what Brian said about Last Jedi. The practical effects were amazing. I love the fact they got back to that, and I like Kylo Ren's character. He's better in Last Jedi, of course, as far as Adam Driver portrays him. But I think it's another good addition to the Star Wars genre. And that's
That's your number 6. So I guess it's up to me, Greedo, to round out the number 6 spot. We've got The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens. So far, it's a sequel trilogy slot. I'm going to shake things up a little by going with Revenge of the Sith at number 6. Really don't have any major problems with Revenge of the Sith. It just is, again, like so many Star Wars movies, frustrating in that there's some missed opportunities there, quite a few. And the first act really feels like filler. Like they really didn't have a structure of what to do with Count Dooku, what his plan was. So we got to eliminate him in the first act. We have all this slapstick during the middle of a major battle, and that first act is just, if you cut it down, if you cut the whole movie down, I think it'd play a lot better. But just because it's at number 6 doesn't mean it's terrible. I remember Attack of the Clones damaged me so badly as far as my enthusiasm for the prequels. That was the first, Revenge of the Sith had the dishonor of being the first Star Wars movie I didn't go see on premiere or on a preview.
Yeah,
I didn't call a radio station 100 times like I did for Return of the Jedi to get preview tickets. So I went with Dave Bennett, our friend, who's not actually a member of the Cantina Club. Just me and him, which is really weird. I've never done that. It's the first time seeing a Star Wars movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. I remember where the movie won me over was the scene where it started to win me over, was the scene where Mace Windu tells Anakin to wait behind when he goes to confront the Chancellor, and that eerie scene where it just kind of seems like it's thrown together, but it almost approaches a moment where the movie has a feel and a vision. It has that odd soundtrack going, and all the characters are just staring into the distance, and you get the feeling that something terrible, the fate is about to turn in a terrible direction. We were both, I remember Dave saying, this doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie, any Star Wars movie I've ever seen. At that moment, he said that. He says, and he said, I kind of like it. It's got a weird feeling. And so I think we were both kind of on board. And then the highlight of the movie to me is just the absolute brutal ending of Anakin turning into Vader. We were so shocked, he and I both. I mean, we're grown men, but we're seeing a Star Wars movie. We don't expect to see, the lead character turned into a charcoal briquette in such a brutal way, like so slowly. That scene developed so slowly, and John Williams, of course, added a great score there, where it's just you just every moment's agonizing, even if you don't like Anakin very much or that particular portrayal of him. It's a brutal moment where you can almost buy this is actually the origin of Vader. I don't approach the prequels as really the origin of Vader that much. I think of it as more like the fall of the Republic and the rise of Sidious. Vader's just almost, I just don't think of Anakin and Vader as the same person at all.
I don't either.
So in a way that it's a big flop for the prequel movies for me in that theme, but there's stuff to enjoy there. I think Revenge of the Sith looks pretty good. It still holds up when you watch it pretty well. Again, they kind of threw a lot of stuff at the wall. I don't really get a lot of the General Grievous subplot, and there was so much to get done in that movie. But it also gives you the idea that if they had just done the prequels as one film, it would have been so much better. There was no need for the Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones at all. You could have done the Clone Wars television show and expounded upon it. But all we needed was one movie show. Everybody wanted to see Anakin turn on Obi-Wan, and they did not foreshadow that in any significant way with the first two movies. If they'd even had a lightsaber training scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Attack of the Clones, where Anakin lost his cool, or he showed their different styles and how much anger was in Anakin, that foreshadowed their next battle that was going to be for the real stakes. But none of that stuff was done. And anyway, so Revenge of the Sith, I love Palpatine, just like Gundark said. It's his story to me. We have the internet meme of all time of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. What did he say? Have you heard the tragedy? What is the line? I can't believe I can't think of it right now.
Have you heard of the
Are you familiar with the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, or whatever he said? And I love listening to Ian McDiarmid talk about that stuff too. When he talks about how that scene was done and how some of the other scenes were done. And I think he really appreciated that scene, the writing in that scene. I think he nailed that scene, even though it is comedy. At the end of the day, it will be remembered as comedy. It is still, it set up intrigue for the next 10 years, people thinking about who the heck is Darth Plagueis, and it brought a lot of, more interest into the sequel trilogy than it actually deserved, I think. It was a better idea than the stuff they've used in the sequel trilogy. So anyway, I've got it at number 6.
Singing yup no. Yup yup. You're singing yup no. Choo-cha.